It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Wednesday, December 27th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Health is Happiness, the foundational figures of Christianity word study, and of course, commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? Yes, it is Wednesday. We have service tonight. I hope you guys have enjoyed your week thus far. It is Hump Day, the middle of the week. Oh yeah, don't forget, tomorrow is Question and Answer Thursday, so get those questions ready. Send them to me whenever you can. If you haven't yet, for this video, December 27th video, go ahead, leave a like and comment to build our community. Just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. All right. This week's Sunday message title, Christmas of Love and Peace, and of course, thank you. Okay? So it is Wednesday. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Can you guys hear it? Like, right when I started recording, it's starting to pour rain here at the campsite. So it's kind of therapeutic, to be honest, to be able to be recording, and you can hear the rain hitting the tent, right? So, well, only problem is there's like a bunch of bugs coming in here, but whichever way, I'm enjoying my time right now. It's very, very rainy, and I think it's something that we are gaining a lot from. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to be closing the tent so the water doesn't get all over the computer and stuff like that. All right, I think this should be enough. But yeah, here I am, guys. It is raining. I'm camping. I'm having a very, very good time. It's a good end of the year for me. I'll be staying here for one more night until my Wednesday. So it's Tuesday afternoon for me, and for you guys, it's going to be Wednesday, right? One thing that's kind of very clear for us right now is we are so close to the end of the year. Basically, if you made it to this point, you've made it to the very end. We're slowly moving in. We have 4 days left before the end of the year. Super excited and happy to see 2023 come to an end. Now, I was thinking about this to myself is, why am I so happy to see 2023 come to an end? Because it is a difficult year. But I think more than thinking about it as a difficult year and like being thankful that it's finally ended, I think the best thing for us is to understand is it is the right time for the year to end, right? Yes, we went through a lot of different things, difficulties, tribulations, blessings, whatever it is, but we went through everything that we needed to go through. And if you think about like what Sunsim said in the Sunday message, or in the Christmas message, Christmas message, he's basically saying that, sometimes we are setting conditions to get better or gain better things, right? If you think about that, that's one of the reasons why we have, why we're setting these conditions is to gain better things, which means this. If we don't go through what we need to, then we cannot gain what we need to either, right? It's like working to gain something, right? Like going to work and you have to save enough money to buy something, but if you don't, work enough hours, you're not going to be able to make enough money to buy it, right? So imagine if you're working to gain something, but then you just decide, this is too long for me, I'm going to cut short before the right time, then you cannot gain what you really wanted. So, I think we got to take a look at this year in that way. Right? What way is that? Is, hey, we have gone through everything that we needed to go through to set the conditions, right? To go through all the difficulties so that by the end of the year, we can say that we gained, right? And, what's one of the big things about the end of 1335 or the end of 2023? Daniel chapter 12 just tells us that we will be blessed at the end of the 1335, which means the end of the year, which we've come to, there's going to be a great blessing. A very, very great blessing for all of us, whether it's going to be at a church level, province level, or whatever level we think it's going to be. So I personally am excited about this too. I really am. Right? So, yeah, when I was preparing this, it was like early in the morning because I'm not sure what it is, but when you go camping, like you just wake up early and you stay up and you're just hanging out. And, for me, I was in charge of the coffee, obviously, but I forgot my equipment, right? I have like this hand grinder, and you have these pouches you can make coffees with and stuff, but I forgot it. So, I went out at 8 a.m. looking for a coffee shop, and the only place open was Starbucks. So yes, I had Starbucks coffee this morning. I didn't have a lot. Oh, actually, I did have a latte. It was terrible, but, there's no other choice. I was just happy and thankful that, me and a buddy went out. We grabbed some coffee, brought it back for all the people and stuff like that too. So, I don't know. There's just something about not good coffee, something about coffee that just brings people together. And, we were like, for a couple hours, just talking around the table. Hey, for you guys, when's the last time you guys been camping? Like for me, it's been decades, right? I told you guys it's been probably like over 20 years since I've been camping. So how long has it been for you guys? The last time I went camping was in my teenage years, right? And I'm already 45, so you're talking like 25 to 30 years ago. That's the last time that I went camping. But I'd have to say this trip is really nice. And there's a ton of people here. But even more than this, it's like the people who are in charge, like they have been doing this multiple times. They prepared so well, and it's quite amazing for me to see how well they prepared this trip, right? Like at night, like it's so cool. Like at night, all the tents had Christmas lights. Isn't that crazy? There's Christmas lights. One of the tents had a Christmas tree. There's tables, projectors, there's Netflix, right? It basically had everything you wanted in an outdoor setting, right? So it is kind of like glamping, but we are actually in tents too. And of course, it's super hot and humid. Like even last night, I was hot sleeping. It was like 2, 3 in the morning, and it was still 24 degrees. There's a little breeze, but overall, it was quite nice. You don't need a blanket or anything else. You just sleep, right? And one thing that I've realized here is, of the 50 people here, almost all of them are families. They're here with their kids, right? There's a couple of family here with 3 kids, one family with 4 kids. And for me, just hanging out with them, it's really amazing to see how parents raise their children. It really is. Because, children aren't easy. And if you're going to be with children all day, they're not easy to deal with at times, whether they're toddlers or even teenagers. And, sometimes people say things about parents like, oh, their children are too wild. Oh, they're not raising their children properly. And people say all these different types of things, right? Like people do say these types of things. And, if anyone has been with children for a long period of time, they can get quite difficult, quite annoying, and sometimes even frustrating. Like you're like, oh, why do I have to put up with this kind of thing? They're just these little kids. And, just being here with all these families together, there's like a huge growing respect for parents for what they do. Like raising this next generation of amazing members of Providence, that is not an easy thing to do, especially in this world where a lot of the kids are not into church and stuff like that too. I kind of look at that and say that is one of the most difficult things to do, right? And even if you think about it, even if you raise your children really well, there's no guarantee how your children are going to end up or turn out. There's just no guarantee because they also have their own free will, right? And you see all the difficult things, like what they're dealing with in schools and all the stuff in media, all the stuff in all the, it's all there for children to kind of misbehave and go in a bad direction. So much respect to all the parents out there because it's not an easy job. It totally isn't, right? And, if you think about it, we only see the kids at church for a few hours at a time. The parents stay with the children all day, every day. And, for me, I think this is one of the reasons why I just play with children like crazy, right? I try to get them to use up all their energy, and because, what I think is, and what I know is the parents super appreciate it. I'll just play with the kids constantly until they have no energy left or whatever it is. And it's sometimes the parents just need a break. They really do. So for me, that's why I like playing with kids. I hang out with them. I do this and that, and I just play with them. And I know it's something that that parents really appreciate because they've been with the kids all day. Like I even look at them now, like the kids right now. Wow, can you guys hear the rain even more? Can you guys hear the rain? Yeah, right now like the children are all out at the petting zoo, but now that it's raining, I think they're all coming back, right? So it's going to get quite loud and crazy. It's going to get quite loud and crazy once again. I think it is, right? But yeah, it's just enjoying my time here camping. Very, very relaxed. It's still, even though, there's like blow dryers, there's Netflix, there's a projector, right? Last night we had like rack of lamb leg, 2 turkeys. It was a crazy Christmas dinner out here. If you see my Instagram, you'll see all that there. But it's even then, we're still kind of roughing it because we're in tents. We don't have air conditioning and stuff like that too. Although I am going to make a confession right now. I was at one point, it was so hot. I went into the car, turned on the air conditioning, and prepared this podcast because it was so hot. Now it's nice and cool because we have all the, because the rain is falling down. It's really, really nice and cool. But yeah, my confession is I did go into the car, turned the air conditioning, blasted the air conditioning, and prepared the podcast there. And it was a very, very nice feeling, right? Oh, special surprise for you guys once again. Do you guys remember Ichigo from last week? She did. She's from Mongolia. Well, she did another testimony, and this testimony are the 5 things that she is thankful for. So I'm grateful that she's doing even more testimonies. Anyone out there who wants to do some testimonies or whatnot, go ahead, make those audios, and then just send them to me, and I'll play them for you on this podcast too. Okay. So let's please welcome Ichigo from Mongolia, who's currently in Korea, and this is her testimony on 5 things she is thankful for.
Hi guys, it's Ichigo from Mongolia, who lives in Korea right now. And I want to share my 5 things that I'm thankful for 2023 this year. And I'm going to share 5 things. The first 4 things is the part of the 5th thing. The 5th thing is the biggest one. It's going to be the longest one. So first of all, first one is my family, who the mom, dad, and my younger brother who's 3 years old, and my younger sister start to listen words and go to church. It's my mom is almost 10th time now, and they come to Christmas too. Is such a thankful for thing for me. And the second is where I work, the part-time job I doing longest now in restaurant, and the boss who owned the restaurant, they're a family, and I'm planning to evangelize them and connect them with the pastor, and it's going quite well, and I'm really thankful for that too. And my third thing is I can make it until 5th year in Korea now, and studying 4th year of college until here was impossible thing for me without God and words. So I'm really thankful that I am still here until here now. I can make it here, not only 2023, but also 4th year of college too. And my 4th thing is I have the Mongolian proud friends in here, and God share words through me to them, and now I am like 4 or 5 so good members with me, and it's a really hope to Mongolian church in Korea, in Seoul. It's really really boundary, so I'm really thankful for that. The 5 people in here, us, we are like future of the Mongolian members who lives in Korea. Before that, when Mongolian province member come to Korea, they really lost spiritually because they need to work, and because of the work they really can't listen to words and focus on the words, and they just go back and just leave the province with such a hard thing for God, like harsh. It's so harsh. So we are really the boundary kind of thing, and I'm really thankful that boundaries are really making here. The fifth and the most important thing I want to be thankful and I want to share is this year was the hardest year for me, because not because of cages or sensory, it's just my own problem, which is find my own tuition and study every day, almost every day, come to school and do my spiritual. Altogether was not possible this year. So I was already decided on March I go back to Mongolia and find new college again, find new full scholarship was my way. But God changed it. God really made so better plan for me, which was giving me the best part-time job on the crab restaurant. And the family who owns the restaurant, they really want to help me, and they lend me the money, my one semester tuition first before. So on summer vacation I was need to pay back to them, and I work every day 2 months, and because of that my spiritual life is getting so bad, and my physical too and mental too. I was almost the hardest time, must break down. So during this time, after this time in September, I was desperately asked for the boss just help me to listen to Sunday words, because we thought that I can't make it anymore, and he really agreed with that. And during the time I start to regain my power on September. My dad is first time come to Korea for travel, just few days, and he see my life and tell my mother, and they decided to listen the words. Before that, my family and my connection was quite hard. We didn't really connect that well. We don't understand each other's words, and we was so quite far from each other. But because I had really bad breakdown, I really do understand my parents' heart a little bit more, 심정, because if I don't live with God, I would live like this, so alone. And I tell my mother, I really feel your heart, and I really wish you can connect with God, because now I know without God I had such no power, and I really wish you got that power. And she really agreed with that. So, and even if I have so many hard things, if I take God on first, God always giving me chance to connect and share the words. And during those times, sharing the words was the most powerful and touching way to newcomers. Like 선생님 now, sharing those words is the greatest thing. Yeah, so thank you so much.
And thank you so much, Ichigo, for that wonderful testimony of 5 things you are thankful for 2023. And like I said, if you guys have anything else, we still have the 15 days of giving glory to God in the, from January 1st to 15th. So if you have anything you want to give glory to God through, whether it's a testimony, whether you want to praise, sing a song, or anything else like that, go ahead and leave that for me. Would love to play that during the time of giving glory to God. So the poll on the Wednesday service is quite interesting, right? The poll came out, and so far I do believe how many people do we have right now? we have 54 people who have actually voted, right, on what is your thoughts on Wednesday service. And about 46%, so about half the people said they never skip. This is my service to God. And then next is 33%, which is rarely skip. I will do my utmost to go to service. And then life is busy, so I watch online when I can, which is 13%. And other, often miss. It's really hard to be motivated to join, which is only 7%. So it kind of makes sense. And when you look at the it should be in this way, where the highest is never skip, and then it slowly gets lower and lower and lower, right? And it's 0% for those who say, I have bigger priorities in Wednesday service. It's 0%, right? So that's a good sign, right? So yeah, so far we have never skip is 40, almost half the people never skip, and rarely skip is 33. So that means that you're looking at 79% are usually at church. 79% are usually joining service, right? I would even say that a real joining of services, for those who can absolutely make it, right, would be you actually have to go to service itself. I would say that would be that would be the actual attending service. And remember, like I said, for those who can actually make it, because I know some people can make it, but they won't, and they'll just watch it online. That's something I'd say that, yeah, if you can make it, then I don't consider that like the best way to do it. I'm just too tired. But there's many things in life where we're too tired. Even work. How many times are you too tired and then you don't, but you still go to work, right? So I do think church is very, very similar to that. And I was thinking that it's quite an interesting concept to think about. I do think it is. Because I think one of the most common misperceptions that I hear is, some people say this to me. They're like, oh, Sunsteam didn't send a message this week and the head leader is making the message. So then people think it's less important, right? And I think that's very interesting because I think that would change the definition of the word service. Service is what we do for God. It's not based on what we receive. Well, Sunsteam's not giving the message, so I don't need to go to service. No, I don't think it's based on that at all. We are giving service to the Holy Trinity. It is part of our act of praise and worship, right? It's more than, who's delivering the message? What are we going to hear? It's more than that. It is us giving glory, active service and worship to God. So if you look at it, even in the former faith, right? I would say former faith, there's a lot of people that go to church because of community, people that are there, people that they enjoy being with, right? And they go because of the people who are there at church. But it's very interesting because, Providence is very, very much word-centered. And because it's word-centered, we're more interested in, did Sunsteam send the message or not? Did Sunsteam send the message or not, right? And I think the question we have to really ask ourselves is, even if there isn't a message from Sunsteam, even if Sunsteam didn't send us the Wednesday message, right? Does that make the service less valuable, right? That's a big question, right? Or should it be, regardless of what I receive, I'm going to give glory and praise to God as my act of service, worship, and praise, right? Because I think the moment we start to get into the mindset that, Sunsteam didn't send the message, so I'm not going to service, or it's not as important, it's a very slippery slope. Because it's kind of putting yourself as the center. That you are judging now, right? That God cannot speak through your head leaders. It's based only on what you think. And think about this. If you start thinking that, Sunsteam didn't send a new message, I'm not going, that means, what about in the future when Sunsteam dies? Does that mean you stop going to Sunday service too because there's no new message from Sunsteam? See, that you can kind of see how it's a slippery slope once you start to reason with yourself why you shouldn't go to Wednesday service, right? So it's very, very interesting because I do hear this sometimes it's Sunsteam's not speaking or this or that. And, it kind of creeps into my head too. It's that's a very interesting way of thinking about it, right? But when we think about it very carefully and deeply, we're going to notice that, that's not the best way to think about this Wednesday service. Or else, what's the point of Wednesday service in the first place, right? If it's just about that. So that's kind of one of the reasons I was thinking about this Wednesday message poll. You guys can keep doing it, right? Keep sending, keep writing the polls because, this is basically what you yourself do. What is your attitude? What are your thoughts towards it also? Okay. So this week's message, there's one thing I did want to bring up for this week's message. And because Sunsteam talks so much about how much or how great his suffering is, it's really interesting because the feeling right now, because even remember when Sunstein said the message, there's three types of people. The Samaritan woman who realized early. Peter realized only when the history has changed a certain direction. And then Paul realized after the regret. And it almost feels like Sunsteam's saying to us, remember, I'm not saying this is what Sunsteam's actually saying. The feeling is we didn't realize deep enough, like the Samaritan woman, just going out and testifying right away, having that joy and that happiness, right? And because we didn't, we're realizing so late. This is after the fact that Sunsteam's in prison, like for the second time, like going to prison for the second time, right? That we are moving in that direction. Because just listen to how much Sunsteam's talking about how much suffering there is. Right? It just feels like there's a turn in history. And we're moving towards a time when Providence will go through suffering to save mankind. Right? Like, think about it like this way. Why is Christianity thriving and blooming right now with billions of people? Because it took the absolute suffering and death of Jesus and the entire early Christian church to reach that point. It went through massive suffering over 400 years. And that's something that we need to think about also, right? Is if the tides are changing and turning to a time of suffering, and we're thinking to ourselves as like, we went through a lot of suffering. Well, technically speaking, Sunstein went through all the suffering, technically speaking, right? And when you really, really think about this, I was just like, wow, are we really turning into the early Christian church where that even after Sunstein dies, there's still going to be a ton of persecution, a ton of suffering that we're going to have to go through so that we set the condition for the future so that Providence will be huge in the future. Like, that's something that was kind of scary to me. I'm like, wow, are we really turning this way? And one way you can really find that out is this. Like, the reason why I'm thinking this is because whenever you read the scriptures is always about, Jesus said, if I get persecuted, you get persecuted. If I go through this, you are going to follow the same path as me. Right? So if you look at 1 John chapter 2, verse 6, it says, whoever claims to live in him must live as Jesus did. Jesus himself said in Matthew 10:38, whoever does not take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. In 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 21, for to this you have been called, because Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example so that you might follow in his footsteps. What footsteps? The footsteps of suffering. Matthew 24, verse 9 talks about the time of the second coming, which is right now, and is, they will deliver you to tribulation, will kill you, and you will be hated by all nations because of my name. Right? It's pretty crazy when you think about it, guys. Don't you think? I think that it looks like we're going on this path, and we need to recognize this. Because if we don't recognize this, what's going to happen? Well, let's think about this. None of us were ready for 2023, right? And since none of us were ready for 2023, when the suffering came, we're all like, what's going on? I can't believe this is happening. And then people start freaking out, and then some people start to leave and stuff because they had no idea this was going to happen. We have to foresee these things, right? Because how do I know that most likely we're taking a turn of things? Remember, we followed the same path as the man of mission. What is the man of mission going through right now? He's going through suffering. He's going through more tribulation. The time period has turned against him, which means it's going to turn against us. And it's kind of a thought that I think we need to prepare our hearts. We really do, right? Prepare our hearts for a time like this that is already here, right? Sunsteam is going through this, so what does it say about us? I'm going to be very honest and say if Sunsteam's suffering this much, I do think we're going to be going through something just like it. It's scary to think about it that way, but it's also something where we have to understand sometimes it's going to be the only way it becomes the path of glory is through suffering. And Sunsteam's been, think about it, all throughout the messages. Thank you for the suffering. This suffering made me realize. The suffering allowed me to understand your Shimjung. The suffering allowed me to understand people's Shimjung. The suffering allows me to save people. There's a major shift. And I'm not sure if it's going to change here, like from next year's message, but it's something that I do think we have to take like into real consideration. We really do. And it's something that we do need to prepare our hearts for, because it's not going to be very, very easy. Right? That's just kind of one of the things that I'm thinking about. Like, wow, the message has really changed a lot, and we have to think about what we need to do for the next steps, and what we shouldn't be surprised by. What's going to happen next year, the year after that, the year after that. We shouldn't be surprised, right? So that is something that I look at and say, that's very, very interesting, right? And something that we do need to prepare our hearts for. I do think that I'm not saying it's going to happen this way, but it looks like it, because we are going to take the same path as a man of mission, and he's going through massive suffering, right? This is quite interesting too, because we still have the trial and stuff going on. The appeal is going to be going on next year and stuff too, right? But a friend called me yesterday. And the people who are on either on KJS's side or people who are just slandering Providence now, they contacted my friend. And it was actually quite funny, right? Because the person just wrote to my friend and said, "Hi, how are you?" And this is a person that doesn't normally call. But the response like my friend gave was, "Oh, I know the situation well. I've already made up my mind, so you don't need to talk to me about Sunseam's situation." But the response was ridiculous. The response was just like, "Oh, has anyone talked to you about Sunseam's situation yet?" And it's kind of like, we're like, did they not read the last text? Like, we're like, the guy wrote, "Hey, yeah, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. I've already made up my mind." And we both looked at it, we laughed at the response. Because even though he responded, this person didn't even read what he wrote. And just basically they had their own agenda of what they wanted to do. They're not even listening. And, I'm going to say this. I don't think that everyone on the other side is like this, because I haven't seen how everyone does it. But this doesn't look very good. And I would even say the same thing about, people on our side who do the same thing, that's not a very respectful way of doing it, right? So if you talk to someone and they completely disregard what you say, then you're probably not going to want to have a very long conversation with them, right? So, I'm not, like I said, I'm not here to talk about the entire side on the other side is disrespectful and they do it like this, because I don't know. This is just about this one instance, and I don't want to label them in that way, right? So I don't want to stereotype them, unless we start to see a reoccurring theme with all the people saying doing things in the exact same way, right? Because then we could say, oh, that's their tactic. They don't listen. They're just going to say what they want to say, and then they'll see what happens, kind of thing. But this is the first time I've seen it like this, right? And, if anyone has had these experiences too, I would like to hear what the conversation is really about also, because I'm not even sure. But this is just a quick reminder for you guys, because personally, I am not sure what they can say to convince me that that what they believe is 100% true, right? Because, let me tell you some of the things where we'll talk very reasonably and rationally. One of the things people say to me is, "Hey, a good friend of mine told me that Sunseam did this to them." And then I'd be like, okay. And then their question would be, would they lie? Would they lie? And my honest answer to them is, there are many reasons to lie. And actually, there are more reasons to lie than there is to tell the truth. Just because you know them, right, doesn't mean that they don't lie, right? So that's not a real reason. Just because someone tells you that something is true doesn't mean it's true, right? So, and especially if it's something this big, you can't just take it at face value without any evidence or whatnot, right? So, I would support my friends, but to actually believe it, that's a completely different thing. So that's not a real reason to say, oh, look, this is true because someone I know, it happened to them. And I would be straight up, were you there? Are you 100% sure? Why do you believe them? What did they say to you, or what did they show you to prove to you that it's actually true, right? So there's one of the reasons I would never accept is, would this person lie to me? Or, oh, this is someone I know I'm very close to, they wouldn't lie. That's not a reason. It's not reasonable, right? Totally not reasonable and totally not rational. Second thing is, some people will try to show me letters. Can you prove the letters are real? And can you show me the context of the letter? What is he really answering to? Or are you putting a narrative on that letter? What's the actual other letter that was sent? What does it say? Show me the letters and prove to me that it's actually a real letter. Right? Just showing a letter, I just don't understand. And if someone says to me, oh, KJS or AJ showed me the letter and AJ said it was true. Well, we all know what AJ's life was truly like over the past couple of years. Can you trust her? And the answer is absolutely not. Another reason that people are going to use to try to convince you is, oh, but think about it. So many people accused. Can they all be telling a lie? And the answer is yes, they can all be lying. And yes, they can all be telling the truth. And yes, some of them can be lying and some of them can be telling the truth. What am I trying to tell you is anything is possible. The only thing that matters is, do you have evidence? Do you have proof? Right? That's the bigger thing. Can they prove it to you? Even if someone is real, think about Jesus. Jesus is the Messiah. And even though all these Jewish people rose up against him and said, release Barabbas and crucify Jesus, just because hundreds of people went against Jesus and said that he's guilty, does that mean he's guilty? And the answer is absolutely not. It is not about numbers. It isn't about numbers. It doesn't matter how many people accuse. It's about what is proven, right? Then someone might say, oh, but Sunseem just lost the court trial December 22nd. Doesn't that mean now that he is guilty? And the answer is, well, put it in a couple. Firstly, I would say let's take a look at it from a religious context. Knowing the Bible, knowing the history of God, the people of God have been falsely accused. Like examples is like Jesus and Joseph. Now, the fact that they were tried and found guilty, does that make you stop believing? And the answer is no. It actually makes us believe more, because it was prophesied that these types of persecutions and things would happen. It makes us believe more, right? And if you think even more, like, oh, just because Sunseem was like sentenced, think about this. We know the facts, a lot of the facts of the trial now. It's very, very transparent. The only credible evidence they have, remember, there's only 4 credible evidence. It is audio, video, pictures, and DNA. And guess what? The only credible evidence they had was an audio, which is now proved to be fake. That's fake. That's their number one. Their number one evidence is fake, right? Many of the testimonies, the things that they said were proven to be untrue. Brainwashing and unable to resist is kind of a ridiculous thing, because when you look at all the science on brainwashing, they say brainwashing doesn't even exist. And we're talking most of the psychologists in the world are saying it doesn't really exist. It's hard to, you can't prove it. And if you think about this even more, like think about that's psychologists saying that brainwashing doesn't even work. And if these girls were really afraid of Sunseem's authority, right? That, oh, this is the one that was sent, he's the Messiah, yada yada yada, then why would one of them have their own boyfriends? Right? If we're that brainwashed, why doesn't everyone come to pre-dawn service? If we're that brainwashed, why doesn't everyone come to all the services? If we're that brainwashed, why don't we follow the word that closely? Why do people fall? Right? And remember, there was a diary that was read that one of the people accusing wrote in their diary that they physically wanted to be romantic with Sunseem, and they were disappointed that it didn't happen. And that was February of that year where they were accusing. Right? So when you think about this, a lot of it doesn't make sense. And of course, we see the corruption in KJS's trial. How can she get sentenced for aiding and abetting Sunseem before Sunseem's trial is even finished? So we don't even know Sunseem's guilty yet, because she was sentenced way before that. So when you look at that, it absolutely makes no sense at all, right? So that's what I'm saying is, overall, it just doesn't look like a very good argument. It's basically hearsay. No, this is what someone said. Oh, did you hear about this? Oh, did you hear what this person said? Oh, did you hear the letter that Sunseem wrote? It's very interesting. It is. I'm telling you straight out, it's very, very interesting, because how much of it can be proven, right? And like I said, even with letters, it's not just, is it Sunseem's letter? But the second thing is, what's the context behind the letter? And that's something that we do have to think about, right? So, I think it's, last thing I'll say is, I think it's very deceitful and conniving that they knew they had a fake audio. Why? Because Maple said she recorded herself, but now we know it's fake, right? So she said she recorded herself. So they knew it was fake, yet they gave it to Netflix to use in a documentary before the trial so that public opinion would sway to their side, right? And yeah, it's very, very interesting. And I think it's something that we all have to, always be prepared for. Because you know what? These people aren't going to stop. And they're going to start to say a bunch of different things. But we have to be well equipped anyways with reason and logic. And that's the number one. There's the two things that I always work with. Yes, I am not very empathetic. Yes, I am not a very emotional person. However, I am reasonable and I am rational to my best ability. And I hope it's something that all of us will really be able to, defend ourselves in these situations too. Okay? So yeah, today we have a special a song from Julius over there in Australia, and he said this song is called "Burning Life." Was initially written as a 30-second intro into a hip-hop concert done in January 2023 at the Melbourne Church, right? And it was to give glory to God and connect the newcomers. Now, in the last couple of months of 2023, reflecting on the things that had happened and seeing Sunsteam's determination to go through whatever it takes to fulfill God's will, Julius said he was inspired to make this into a full song to confess his determined heart to the Trinity and Jesus, to testify for what they have done through him in God's history. So his immense sacrifices is not in vain. So he felt all of Providence have received that kind of heart as we reach the end of 2023. All right, so this is a song, Burning Life, from Julius Miumo in Australia.
2023. We've all come a long way. Many different stories, but we're all on the same journey. Many, many ups and downs, but we're all still around. Many, many, many lessons, but each one came with a blessing. Let's not forget for where we come from when we make this confession. Some people just want to watch the world burn. As for you and I, let's set ourselves on fire, shine a light so bright that will make the people say, burning life, Look at the flames in my eyes, watch it burn, but don't stare too long, you might lose your sight. Some people gunning for a downfall, but they'll never see our demise. Burning life, who's the one? I'm the one, he's the one. Are you the one? No, we're the ones who keep the fire going till the day we die, till they see the light, make it bright, till we hear the people say, born sinner, never could be ill. I know I'm back from the dead, yeah, the Lord is my healer. I took the red pill, that's why I call him teacher. When you learn about the spirit, oh, there ain't nothing realer. The one you learn from determines your entire destiny. Learn from the one who taught about eternity. Cloud craving, paper chasing, the joy is only temporary. I don't wanna do the same thing, so I hide to count the vanity. I keep my eyes on the prize, I'll never sell my soul to the devil in disguise. With both hands on each side, I'm holding on to dear life. I keep my guard up, never back down. When it goes down, I call on the Christ. Spiritual battle, answer the call. It's Call of Duty, modern warfare, put the armor of God. They're fighting Lucy with a rock, I got atomic bombs. Love the Lord your God and all your brothers, watch the demons fall. Don't be deceived, know who the ops is. Keep the unity and peace, go far way across this. Came to preach the word of God like I'm born in Tarsus. Here to testify the things I've seen on road to Damascus. He's the real deal, the real thing, be glad you heard the King's speech. Blessed are those who reach the end and get to hear the Lord speak. GODs, POC, we fulfilled everything. Burning life, kerosene, burning life, legacy.
You will never see me stop in the future. The life that fulfills God's will continue. Everyone thinks I'm unfortunate because I go through suffering. But inside of me it's different. Because I walk the path of eternal life.
Burning life, Look at the flames in my eyes, watch it burn, but don't stare too long, you might lose your sight. Some people gunning for a downfall, but they'll never see our demise. Burning life, who's the one? I'm the one, he's the one. Are you the one? No, we're the ones who keep the fire going till the day we die, till they see the light, make it bright, till we hear the people say,
like Mary poured out her perfume on Jesus' feet, I must pour out my heart, mind, and love on the one who saved me.
All right. So thank you so much, Julius, for that wonderful song that you made for all of us for the end of 2023. It's a great way of giving glory to God. I hope that everyone really enjoyed that song, which moves us into the word study for today. And today is Wednesday. We go over the foundational figures of Christianity. And today I want to talk about Athanasius of Alexandria. Okay? So he's a theologian. He's beloved and you know, more in recent times, there are people that kind of don't like his theology, right? And but you know, let me first get into his story. So, who is Athanasius? Okay, so he was born in the city of Alexandria sometime in the 290s. So he's the 3rd century, and Alexandria was a culturally vital city for the Roman Empire, being both a major focal point for education as well as the breadbasket for much of the East. It's one of the rare cities that had intellectual leaders from paganism, Hellenistic Judaism, and Christianity, all drawn to the city's philosophical schools and the fabled library of Alexandria. Now, we know little about Athanasius' education and family. So the earliest concrete evidence we have is when he entered the service of the Bishop of Alexandria. And this person, a man conveniently named Alexander, right? So that was a bishop at the time. And Athanasius learned his theology and pastoral skills under Alexander as a deacon and eventually served as his secretary. Now, he shadowed the bishop during the rise of the struggle against Arianism. Okay? So, the Arian controversy arose at that time, and Athanasius still served in more of a support role until the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, right? So he would later follow Alexander to the bishopric of Alexander, and much of his fame grew from these later years as he championed orthodoxy against the ongoing efforts to support some of the Arian controversy. Right? So nearly all of Athanasius' works come from after the Council of Nicaea and were used to clarify, defend, and encourage the orthodoxy of the Nicene Creed. Right? So the big question people are going to ask now is, what is the Arian controversy? So Arianism, it's not something that kind of sprang out of nowhere. It's a philosophy, a way of thinking, right? And it came from a context based on a reaction to an earlier heresy, right? On theological ideas already in the bloodstream. Okay, so one of the earliest heresies from the 2nd century is what we today call modalism, right? And the central idea in modalism is to solve the tensions in our language about the Trinity by collapsing Father, Son, and Spirit into a single being. And this means that when the Bible talks of each of the persons of the Trinity, these are masks or modes that God uses to reveal himself. So sometimes God shows up as Father, sometimes as Son, sometimes as Spirit, but there's no real difference between these modes because they're just one God. So that's what modalism is, okay? So Arianism came in to counteract against this. So it does sound logical, but there is a problem in this idea. It ends up doing violence to the natural reading of the Bible. Jesus calling out to the Father on the cross, or the Father speaking of the Son at his baptism, or Jesus praying to the Father. Now it seems more like a farce, right? So God is calling out to himself, asking why he has abandoned himself. You know, God, why have you forsaken me? Kind of what Jesus said, right? Jesus is praying to himself, not to his Father. Like, that's what makes it kind of whoa, is this all fake then, right? So after the rejection of modalism, many theologians began to work on language that helped separate Father, Son, and Spirit, and they didn't believe there were 3 gods, but they nevertheless wanted to protect people from falling into modalism, right? So to do so, they stressed how the Father was not the Son, and the Son was not the Father. So when Arius, the one who started the Arianism, began to teach in Alexandria, he fell into the same camp of anti-modalists. So his language, though, ended up on the other extreme. So he argued that the Father alone was truly God and that the Son was the first and greatest creature made by the Father. And this made sense to Arius because of the language of Father-Son. A father gives birth to his son, and no one considers them to be the same being. Arius' language, though, stressed that the Son did not always exist and was created. In other words, if you were to ask if the Son was really God, Arius would answer that he was not. He was a creature made by God to accomplish salvation. The Son is more like us than he is like God. So in the end, this teaching by Arius gave rise to a controversy, first in Alexandria, then spilling out to other regions in the Eastern Empire. In the end, the need for a council to decide the problem became necessary, which is the Nicene Council, the Council of Nicaea 325 AD. So the Council of Nicaea was not the first time the church had met in a council to decide on a controversial issue. This had occurred also in Acts chapter 15. What made Nicaea unique was the fact that it was called and enforced by Emperor Constantine, and it attempted to bring together bishops from all known parts of the Christian world. And this was not a regional council, but one that would attempt a universal answer to a theological problem. So the council met, heard the claims of both Arius and Alexander. The debate was not as up in the air as it seems. Part of the council's deliberations were spent understanding what Arius' teaching actually were, since many were unaware of his theology. So in the end, the council came down like a hammer on the idea that the Son was a creature, stating that the Son was begotten, not made, of one being with the Father. So it's common to hear that Athanasius played a key role at the council and had a hand in writing the creed. So the truth is actually the opposite. Athanasius' role in the council would have been non-essential. He was still the secretary for Bishop Alexander, and so almost certainly would not have been allowed to speak, much less shape the creed itself. Athanasius was nevertheless shaped by the debates over Arius and his teachings. So like most of those present, he saw the problems that come from describing the Son as a creature. Namely, he cannot be our Lord and Savior. So after the council was over, and Arianism still on the rise in the East, Athanasius would come to devote his life to championing the Orthodox teachings on the Trinity. Right? So eventually Alexander died, which is the bishop of Athanasius. And then Athanasius was elected to be the Bishop of Alexandria, right? So that's in 328, 3 years after the Nicene Council. So his election was immediately controversial, mostly because he was below the canonical age to take his office. And of course, he was also the target of opponents of the Nicene Creed, who worked to eliminate its conclusions of that the Father and Son were the same being. And he also came up against Constantine's son, now ruling the eastern half of the empire. So Athanasius was frequently portrayed by his enemies as a divisive, angry little bishop who was sowing division. And I think on 5 occasions, it says on 5 occasions, Athanasius was banished from the city of Alexandria, and he nevertheless remained unwavering in his commitment to the divinity of the Son. And his most famous work today is On the Incarnation, a book more on the divinity of the Son before he took on flesh than on the incarnation itself, right? So the legacy of Athanasius then is based almost entirely on his heroic efforts to defend the divinity of the Son and of course, by extension, the Spirit, right? So very, very interesting. He was the one that kind of went against Arianism and modalism, like those are the two things that were going against each other. But very, very interesting because it kind of gives us a history of how the Council of Nicaea came about and why these different types of philosophical ideas actually came into existence. So I thought that was kind of cool, right? So yeah, that is the story of Athanasius. Not a very long one, but I hope it's something that you gained a lot from also. Okay? So there it is, guys. That is today's foundational figures of Christianity, Athanasius of Alexandria. Hope you guys really enjoyed that. Have any questions or someone you want to hear about, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. Okay, so there it is. That is the second segment for today. Let's get into the second break of the day.
Jehovah above, the Lord of hosts, creator of all. I made this world, so hear what I say. Come learn from me, for my ways are the truth. Come to me and ask me, I'll teach you when you do. Come to me, come closer and receive all my love. Always try, climb higher, draw closer to my side. I, your God, Jehovah, speak these words to you. I will reply through all I have made, and there are times I'll answer through you. If you will pray sincerely and ask, I will reply, so act upon my words. Come to me and ask me, I'll teach you when you do. Come to me, come closer and receive all my love. Always try, climb higher, draw closer to my side. I, your God, Jehovah, speak these words to you. Come and learn from me, for I'll raise you well. Act on my words and gain what you should gain. Use what you gain, enjoy what I have given you. Now shine bright, glorify my name. Shine for me. I'll teach you when you do. Come to me, come closer and receive all my love. Always try, climb higher, draw closer to my side. I, your God, Jehovah, speak these words to you. I will teach my truth through the person I have sent. For his words are my words, he is speaking for me. See the way he loves me, he'll love me just the same. I, your God, Jehovah, speak these words to you. See the way he loves me, he'll love me just the same. I, your God, Jehovah, speak these words to you.
Okay, so let's get into our final segment for today, which is Health is Happiness. And of course, we have Yuen Yu giving her final episode, which is we've already at episode 58. And she's going to talk about functional health advice for 50s and above, health checkups, functional assessments, and services available. Okay, so those of you guys, Yuen Yu is in Singapore, and she is studying physiotherapy. Hope you guys will really enjoy this. Like I said, like last week, even if you're not 50, I'm sure there's someone in your life that you really care about who is either approaching 50 or turning 50 or already 50, over 50. And, you know, if you guys really care about me, I'm fastly approaching 52, all right? Not 52. I'm fastly approaching 50, just like everyone else. Either way. All right, so let's get into today's episode. This is all the way from Singapore. This is Yuen Yu with Health is Happiness.
Hello everyone, my name is Yuen Yu. I'm from Singapore and I'm finishing up my studies in physiotherapy. For today's topic on health is happiness, I'll talk a bit more about the health functional assessments, health checkups, as well as any services available that are more catered towards those in their 50s and above. I'd like to thank the Holy Trinity, Pastors Guy and Julius, for this opportunity, and without further ado, I'll begin. Firstly, I'll talk a bit more about population aging trends. The worldwide population is progressively aging, and the number of people aged 60 and above was at 380 million in 1980s worldwide, and this number doubled in 2017 with 960 million people. And this number is expected to double again by 2050, where it is projected to reach nearly 2.1 billion. The main causes for an aging population trend is the improvement in survival as well as decline in fertility. Then, knowing this, what is the importance of managing ourselves when we age? Increasing age is associated with increasing disability, healthcare needs, and costs. Physical ill health and disability are the most consistent factors for depression later in life. With this in mind, what reports actually suggest that rather than the illness per se, it is the illness resulting in other functional limitations that include social limitations in your social participation and meaningful relationships, which means that because you fall ill, then you're not able to walk around as freely as you are, which limits your participation in social activities and maintaining meaningful relationships around you. And that is a bigger risk factor for depression and other mental health issues later on in life. On the flip hand, knowing this, of course, one big thing that can help counter aging and help us to age successfully is physical activity. Physical activity provides benefits for people over the age of 60 for a range of outcomes, including overall health, reducing disease risk, and improving mood. In terms of our physical health, we know that in aging, our bone density as well as muscle mass decreases gradually over time. And muscle mass decreases approximately 3 to 8% per decade after the age of 30. And this rate of decline is even higher after the age of 60. And this aspect of muscle mass reduction is a big contributor to disability and physical decline in their function in older people. However, with physical activity, even just 2 sessions a week can bring significant improvements in bone mass density and muscle mass, which means that just by doing 2 sessions a week, it can maintain and prevent this natural decline. And if we do it consistently enough for a period of time, it can improve the bone mass density and muscle mass. I'd like to share another 2 qualitative studies done on what does successful aging mean. One of them is a qualitative interview done among the seniors in Singapore with about 1,500 plus residents. So among the components in the survey, what was highest rated as successful aging includes being happy, being physically mobile, being free of diseases, being able to continue working, being independent in life, being able to engage in social activity. But of course, for this study, some of its limitations include, since it's being carried out only in Singapore, then its results cannot be generalized to other nations, even in Asia. There is this other study, which is a systematic review on 26 articles, and these articles include both the Asian countries as well as the Western nations. And it's a study about the lay perspectives of successful aging. In the results, what the key perspectives include: being socially engaged, having a positive outlook on life, independence in terms of physical components like physical function. Which means that, summarizing from these 2 articles, important factors include being physically healthy, having independence, and being socially engaged with others. And of course, while it differs between individual to individual on which factors are more important, what I'll share about in this segment is maintaining independence in one's functional mobility and how we can do that. With independence, one is able to do the things he or she enjoys, but without independence, one may need to rely on the assistance of others when you go out. One may need to rely on walking aids. And if you imagine this, right, how different it is if, let's say, you want to go to the nearby food place to get lunch or to get dinner, but you're unable to do it on your own and you need to wait for a family member to assist you, or you need to always rely on a walking aid. In that sense, physical independence, it's a bit helps us have a lot of freedom in our life and helps us to move around a lot more easily. As a general rule of thumb, within exercise, there are two big components. One is aerobic exercise and one is strengthening exercise, which I believe most of us are familiar with. And according to the ACSM guidelines, the American College Sports Medicine guidelines, the recommended dosage would be about 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity a week, or 75 to 150 minutes of vigorous intensity physical activity a week, of which at least 2 days are dedicated to strengthening exercises. One more component, which is especially relevant to older adults, is balance, because this component tends to be overlooked when we're younger, as balance is not much of an issue, and only when we get older then we find that, when we're walking around it doesn't feel as steady, or we tend to have near falls or even have falls because of our lack of balance. So besides, now that we know that exercise is important, there's aerobic, there's strengthening, and there's balance, then what are some resources available? One is, of course, doing it on your own, whereby you can search up for many exercise resources on YouTube, on Instagram, and there are many of these resources online. And besides doing them on your own, you can also check to see if your neighborhood, your region, or your nation offers exercise classes or initiatives. So at least in Singapore, we do have a health initiative called Healthy 365, and it's a mobile application which helps put together and summarize the free exercise classes in each neighborhood. And these include things like yoga, Zumba, HIIT. And this is an initiative that the government did in the recent years. And for balance exercises, so of course, besides searching it up, some easy ones that you can do are balancing for 10 seconds to 2 minutes with your feet together. Or you can make it more difficult by doing a tandem stance, whereby one foot is in front of the other and your toes are in contact with your heel of the other foot. Another harder variation is standing on one leg. And another one is walking heel to toe in a straight line, forwards or backwards if you want to make it harder. And of course, when you do these balance exercises, if you know that you're not very steady and you might lose your balance easily, then do it beside a stable surface like a back of a chair, a table, a wall, so that you can grab onto that if you were to lose your balance. And for the last part, I'll talk about when does someone need to seek a medical professional. There's this clinical state called frailty, which is characterized by enhanced vulnerability to internal or external stresses, meaning that, in other words, it is often described as a transitional phase between successful aging and disability. When an older person has noticeable changes in one of these symptoms, then they should be considered for a more thorough assessment and follow-up with rehab. These signs and symptoms include falls, meaning let's say your legs give way, you lose your balance, and then you collapse onto the ground. Another one includes reduced mobility, which means your legs or your hands or your body just has a significant reduction in strength and you feel much weaker. Another one includes delirium, which is an acute state of confusion, whereby someone has sudden worsening of confusion and memory loss, whether is it short-term memory loss or long-term memory loss. Another one is incontinence, whereby someone has difficulty in using the toilet, in passing urine or passing motion. And the last one is susceptibility to side effects of medication. So let's say you take medication, normally you don't get these side effects, but when you take, you feel that when you take the same medication, you are a lot more susceptible to the side effects. And of course, these side effects are specific to the medications that you're taking. So with this, I've come to the end of the sharing. Hope that everyone has a better understanding about how to age successfully, and it is very possible for one to do so despite having the challenges and the limitations of aging that everyone would naturally go through. Thank you all for listening. With this, let's continue to manage our health as well as to look out for the well-being of those around us that are older, whether that's our parents or in our extended family or the people that we interact with around us. Thank you and take care, everyone.
Okay, and there it is. Thank you so much, Yuen Yu, for another wonderful episode of Health is Happiness. She will be taking a quick break because, she has her studies and stuff she needs to do too. But a big, great, awesome thank you for all the hard work that she's done. This is also opening up for anyone else out there who has maybe some type of program that you would love to also contribute. Go ahead, contact me if you have something that you want to talk about, whether it's movies, music, fashion. It could be anything that you'd like, something that you're really good at, or something that's in your major, like even business. I would love to have a program for you on MSD also. Okay? So there it is, guys. That is the end of today's Wednesday podcast. Hope you guys really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys have an amazing and awesome Wednesday service tonight. All right? Everyone, see you again tomorrow, and make sure, remember, tomorrow's Q&A Thursday. Send in your questions as quick as possible. Everyone, enjoy, and we'll see you guys tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know. I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm